alongside Steven Simcox of Locked On Horned Frogs. Steven, it is National Signing Day, and look, the rich are getting richer as they do on National Signing Day. Texas is killing it, and they'll continue to kill it. A&M's killing it. Like, the SEC's doing well. Like, I think the story of Signing Day, though, to me is Billy Napier and the Florida Gators and what they've been able to do in the last month. And I don't think it has anything to do with Billy Napier at all, necessarily. I think it has everything to do with DJ Lagway and the fact that if you're a receiver, a running back, an offensive lineman, and you want to go to a place where you're like, well, I'm going to play with a dude who's legit,
right,
like DJ Lagway, and it cannot be overstated the draw of a QB like that. I can give you 100 examples now, whether it's modern day Jordan Travis or any kind of big-time quarterback that, you know, is in kind of their last year or so, and then you've got, you know, the Keon Coleman's and people of the world like, hey, that team looks pretty good. The quarterback's amazing. I'm going to go play for him with him. Or, you know, whether it was, you know, RG3 played his true freshman year, and then all of a sudden people are like, well, that guy's pretty good.
Yeah, he's pretty dynamic. Yeah,
I'd like to play with, like, so the coach doesn't have to sell like, hey, when we find a quarterback, like he's gonna get the ball to you. It's like, no, I've watched that guy. He's badass. And that's what's going on with DJ Lagway right now, is that he hasn't even really played all that much, but
he's shown some great things.
Well, look, they were 4-1 with him as the starter when he finished the game. So the only one they lost was Georgia, I think. Or no, Georgia, right. He didn't play that game. But, yeah, they're 4-1 when he was the starter, when he finished the game. And I feel like I'm personally responsible for this because I'm one of the many people who was, like, yelling at Billy Napier. Like, look, man, Graham Mertz, like, I get that you're loyal to him.
You know what you got there, though.
But he is net zero. Mm-hmm. He's not going to lose the game for you, but he's also not going to win it. Mm-hmm. Like, in no way is he going to win the game for you. That's not going to happen. And then when that flipped, it's like, oh, yeah, okay. You know, DJ Lagway is probably not going to lose the game for you either. Maybe a little bit more likely because he's a little more risk adverse because he's a younger player. But also he's going to go and win some games for you. Yeah. It's where 3 minutes left, you need a touchdown, and you're down by 8, and you need a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. Graham Mertz is not getting you both of those things. Mm-hmm. It's just not going to happen. So,
and we'll see it in the portal too when it opens up. That I mean, you're going to have playmakers that are like, yeah, I want to go play with that guy. But
yeah,
I think it's a good combination of Langway. Obviously, Florida's had funds, like they've got money to spend, and you know, I mean, we sort of nobody really laughed. I think it was kind of like, okay, that makes sense. But they stuck with Billy Napier. There is something to be said about stability. Like you said, I don't think he's moving the needle. Like, I'm not sure he's showing up in people's houses like, hey, come play with me. But at least they're like, okay, well, they've made some commitment to him. I know I can be here for a year. He'll be here. And so we move that way. And I know who my coach is going to be temporarily, which in this sport now is a pretty big deal. So all those things have culminated in them suddenly bouncing back. It's a heck of a story because, I mean, they were supposed to be – in the basement of the SEC, and not that they had an amazing season, but there's certainly a lot more promise there than we expected before the year.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that to me has been the most like surprising thing. And you know, you can go to On3 or 24/7 and look at the recruiting rankings and all that, but you know, it doesn't matter as much as it used to because all this thing, like, look at Jimbo Fisher's had the number 1 class, and then half those guys didn't even make it
through the year,
through the year, and then about another, you know, a half of that, like a quarter of them, just transferred anyway. Now, I would tell you that the heart of A&M's team right now and the talent, the best talent they have, are the last two Jimbo Fisher classes that were really good, but he wasn't winning with those guys. Like he was impeding his own success. And so, but, you know, number 1 class, what does it mean? Like, what does it mean now if, you know, all it takes is one thing to happen and then, you know, that's over, right? So Texas has the number 1 class right now because of 2 factors. Steve Sarkisian, who's done it. Like, he's done a really good job at building that program and learning that. And Arch Manning. I mean, we've seen enough of Arch Manning playing in this offense where it's like, oh, okay, I want to go be part of that. I want to go be part of the defense. Pete Kwiatkowski, if I want to, get to the NFL right now, I kind of want to go play for Pete Kwiatkowski, which was not the case for a long time with the Longhorns. But that's why. Those two factors are why they can lock up the number one class. Georgia at number 2, really, they have a lot of unanswered questions when it comes to quarterback. But you have to trust in Kirby Smart a little bit. But, yeah, I mean, it's
But, I mean, even if you're talking about, the top classes, a handful of those guys are going to – play right away. The majority of them, you're trying to kind of build on something and develop them. And it's like you said before we went to break, Paul. So many of these big name players. I mean, for instance, Micah Hudson at Tech. That was the biggest recruit maybe in that school's history from a ratings perspective, and it was a huge win for Joe McGuire. And they were all excited about it. And they got 1 year of him, and not even on the field that much. And now he's hitting the portal. So it's so tough to get invested in these players and, make all these proclamations and kind of project where they're going to go when you just don't know. There's so many factors on whether they get on the field or not, and that plays into if you can keep them around and keep them staying the course, with the team. So it's not what it used to be. It's still a lot of fun, and I do think with the roster limits now, the classes are getting bigger, and you're seeing coaches say, all right, I'm just going to sign as much talent as I can, and I'm doing that with the expectation that we're probably going to lose a good number of these guys.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to hit on, 10 to 12 of them hitting the transfer portal and build a good team moving forward.
Yeah. And, there are things I'll share, the modern era has changed a little bit in that, there are guys look, Julian Humphrey from Georgia started 10 games this year. He's in the portal. He's decided he wants to go somewhere. But, there were guys who you should just stay at Alabama or Georgia forever because, it's not going to be better, and their options were limited. Now that their options aren't limited, if you're a redshirt freshman and didn't play or didn't get close, and there's 3 other redshirt freshmen who are above you, you're leaving. You're going to leave, and you're going to go play at a school that might even play Alabama. You might wind up at South Carolina or Ole Miss or somewhere like that, and then actually play and help maybe beat Alabama because they just don't have this revolving door of oh, look, our 3 5-star guys got hurt. Well, this is the worst of the 3, but he's still better than your guy who's got a lot of heart.
Yeah.
He's
still better than your starting safety or whatever, right?
Yeah.
No, it is. It's a different world in that regard. But and then signing the early signing day has changed things so much too, and so many guys enroll early. But I mean it's still a fun time. You see a lot of these flips happen now in the days leading up to the signing day itself. So I don't feel like we have the fireworks of the hat dance on ESPNU and that type of thing like we used to, because there's just so many players that are getting locked in early, and maybe they change their mind, but typically it's going to be that announcement's going to be made before we get here, where everybody's getting ready to sign the dotted line in the morning and faxing the paperwork and get after it.
Yep. When we come back, the wheel returns after several weeks, and Steven